everyone, and welcome back to the campaign diary for my Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign, Aracséa edition. In today's session, the party journey to a mist-wrapped isle, talk with repeating ghosts, and uncover a beast which may yet be their doom. For those keeping track of time, this entire session takes place on the evening of the 17th of Caerldine, having set off immediately from where we left off. So this episode, this session, has kind of become like a huge prelude for some amazing stuff that is coming up next session, almost accidentally, and we'll talk about that in a second. Some things are going to be uncovered that you yourselves don't even know, that I've yet to inform you guys of, and the party will discover them next session as well along with it. And I am super excited for next session, and it's all kind of happened almost accidentally. I mean, I had planned, I did think certain things would occur. I did, kind of guess that something might happen, but we'll talk about that in a second. For now, let's discuss what has happened. I'm going a bit off of the rails for this one. I've got a very loose script, kind of just want to hastily put this one together. So, if you remember, the party had set off in the night in pursuit of a missing ferry, the East Haven ferry, and with a very irate Hruna, who was quite frankly pissed off that the group had little to no information as to why her suspected Dwagar menace was operating, what they were up to, where they were headed from, why there was tealing stuff. She just knew it couldn't be good. So, in efforts to kind of take some of this back, they set off immediately to try and chase after the ferry, it having quite a clear track of where in the ice where they can go. So they head for the East Haven dock and they acquire one of the small fishing boats and begin rowing into the mist. As over the entirety of Lancashire there is this mist and the party themselves have heard tales of from a bard nearby of a white lady, that is so called, that haunts the lake. And in fact, as they start rowing, Hruna starts to give them a little bit more story about the white lady herself. And basically, I'll just give you the scoop. So the idea with the lady, the white lady, is that she was once an elven witch, and she was escaping some sort of persecution, and she was hoping to find some way out of whatever situation she was in. She had made some sort of deal with a devil creature and had fled here and was now trying to find a way to get rid of that contract, if you like. And she had lured men and things to this island and done things, blah blah blah. And the rest you will later find out. But she basically just kind of told them a loose story about an elven enchantress that had come here. It's the beginnings to a spooky kind of tale. And from there, they begin to see things in the mist, like these weird, almost like dancing spectres in the mists. And Forsburn even sees what looks like in the Swamp of Sorrows in Lord of the Rings, start seeing upright pale figures in the water that are just gently floating and obviously aren't real and things like that. It's just I also did a subtle change of music so I can give the players that just spooky kind of feel as they start crossing into this little almost terror horror kind of section. After a while, however, they come to almost like a bright a bright spark. They all kind of feel this tingle as they seem to cross some sort of threshold that they can't see. And as the mist begins to clear for a little bit, they see the back of the East Haven ferry and the front of it kind of smashed up against this cliff face. And they all kind of come to the conclusion, by all rights, this land that they found should not be here. It's not on any maps, and there's a bit of weirdness going on. And they even begin to notice that the sky is a bit brighter than it should be. Considering it's nighttime, it is a lot brighter than it should be. So they also notice, as well as this destroyed ship, Forsberg notices that the lifeboats are all gone, assuming that these Dwagar aboard must have fled, possibly, before hitting the rock face. They also notice that slightly over on the right on the shore there is like a jetty, just jutting out of the island a little bit. Signs that perhaps this island may be inhabited at least, or maybe at least visited before. So they get off on the shore and they see on the jetty there is a man fishing, and they kind of have like a quiet moment where they're like, is it a ghost or anything, all this kind of stuff, until eventually one of them just calls over to him. He comes over and introduces himself as John Pettipew, and he kind of says, oh, like, you guys you guys are here early, like, are you here to see the White Lady as well, and all this kind of stuff. And there's like a lot of weird suspicious conversation, and then he eventually just kind of resigns to say, I'll be over here if you need me, and he goes back over to the jetty, and maybe 5 minutes later, they all notice he starts to act weird. He starts to kind of have like this weird fit, and he starts kind of like shaking in space, then his hands seem to be pulled above his head, and he kind of just poofs out of existence. And then a couple minutes later, from the other direction, John appears again and just begins to talk to them, and then they're quickly starting to get the idea that this is like a repeating kind of ghost phenomenon. They're a bit weirded out by it. They don't pick it up that quickly, but you get the idea of what's going on here. The second time they also notice that on John's wrist he has like brand marks or bruises, I should say, around his wrists, which will come up later, and you can kind of guess what's going on here. After that kind of whole thing, they decide to just head to the boat. They're smashed into it. They climb up the cliff a little bit and go to the front of the smashed boat, while the other, and they kind of split up into two teams here. They half of the group go underneath into like the bottom of the ship, and the others to the top and kind of look for clues. They each find like some dead Dwagar, as well as like strange claw marks and things. And I had a good opportunity here to do a kind of cinematic moment where we'd go from one group to the other, and I think we went to like Mutiny and Raina's group first, and it was like, oh, Mutiny, as you're examining the Dwagar body, you turn around to tell Raina, and all you see is Raina up in the corner of the room, like where the wall meets the roof, and you just see her holding onto her throat, kicking her legs, and Dan, who plays Raina, was just like, what, I don't get a save or anything? Like, no, it just happened. And it's like, oh my god. And from there we're going to kick over to the other group, and I kind of explained the same kind of thing. Forsberg with Hruna, he turns to see Hruna kind of get dragged away. Forsberg was able to find a small note on one of the dead Dwagar up here that reads as follows. Let me just find it. The time has come. Make fast your plans and bring the Shardal in peace back with haste. I hope we will be able to tell of your success in person. Warlord Dunamis and I will be waiting. Make long the reign of the fallen. Commander Nildar of Zarthalok. Now, of course, we know the Dunamis name, and I've kind of this part of this ploy that I'm going to be doing to try and tease Carl and Stronus as to, the possible true identity of Dunamis. The thing is to kind of almost separate Zarazes and Dunamis. I know it's the same, like Dunamis Zarazes is his name, but make it associate Warlord Dunamis, that first name, with the Dwagar stuff, and associate Zarazes with Narc and stuff, and like the Bugbear kind of storyline whenever that comes back up. So from there we had a big old fight with these modified wraiths, if you like. There was a lot of damage being dealt, and I think I won't go like to full length. This was like a 2.5 hour combat. It was a very long combat. Modified wraiths, they were like immune to most forms of damage, very hard to hit. They were invisible most of the time. They could drain a life from like people that had control of, that they could restrain. Raina took a hell of a lot of damage, to the point where Hruna had to use one of her health potions on her to kind of bring her back up. There were some resources used. I think Raina used at least a rage. I think she might have had one left, or maybe more than one, I'm not too sure. Mutiny had to cast Cure Wounds a couple of times just to heal some people up, and it's from there, after this whole debacle kind of went on, I did make a note of telling them that these wraith-like creatures that look somewhat elven in nature didn't seem to die when they eventually got to kill them. They kind of just got dragged away, is how I described it. So after a time, the party then continue on their search after finding things, and they have a brief discussion about the nature of these ghosts and how they seem to be stuck here, and various bits and bobs, and they are afeared for a second that they might not be able to leave the island. And again, more on that later. So they return back to the shore, and they see John there, and they have some more chatting about what's going on, and then decide to head further in towards the island. And it's here they come across another character. It seems to be some sort of hunter sitting around a fire, and they sit there for a while and warm themselves up. And this hunter, as you can imagine, is also one of these creatures that seems to repeat themselves. Like he has the same kind of thing where he his hands go above his head for a second and he starts fitting and then disappears, and a few moments later he emerges from the woods with a deer over his shoulder and having hunted again. It kind of just freaks everyone out a little bit more, and so they decide to continue further, and they head up further north to where they eventually come across this almost like altar like thing. These four standing stones with this altar in the middle. There are some animal skins or human skins or something on the side which have arcane scrawlings over them, and Mutiny has a look over them, as does Rime and Fruna, and Frostmaiden kind of just climbs up one of the stones, kind of gets a look out, and he notices a few other locations they could visit. Along with this altar as well, there is also this there is also like this stone affixed to like an icicle out of the ground, which kind of has like a swirling mist in it. Rayner is able to deduce there's like a list of diary entries, if you like, on some of these animal skin things, and they kind of get the idea about she seems to be tapping into some sort of primal power, whoever this person was. It's some basically what it's boiling down to she's preparing like a big powerful spell to try and break a contract she has, or break a bond that she has with the devil, which obviously when Mutiny finds this out is super interesting to her. We've had to modify a Mutiny's story a little bit. We'll go over that another time, that slight changes to Mutiny's story. For now, we do know that she is interested in breaking a deal that she has with a claim that a devil has on her soul, is what we've made it now. Someone has a claim, she doesn't know why, but this Devil Crowley has a claim on her soul. But yeah, she's very interested in these papers, very interested in this spell, and they all kind of figure out, like whether this binding or whatever is described in this arcane magic worked or not. It seemed to have done something. It's like trapped her spirit here. It's trapped all of these spirits here. So it's done something. It might not have worked as intended. And they kind of sit around and wonder what to do for a moment. Rayner and Dagner say maybe they should destroy the crystal. Something in the text describes that she has to bind herself to, she's bound herself to a summoning stone. So they reckon that if they just get rid of that, that will free her, and then the spell on the place will be done. And some of the party are like, no, don't touch that, like, do not do anything with that. Mutiny especially is like, don't, like, she's trying to withhold the information. I fear that there is devil stuff involved here, and she doesn't want to get caught up in it, and she's like, don't touch it, we don't know what it's going to do. And like, Rain is just really wants to get rid of it. Bearing in mind at this point, I think she has like 4 hit points, and because of the lack of healing that's been done, she's got a maximum health reduced because of the Ultia disease, and she also has maximum health reduced because of some of the Wraith life leeching that she has also been a target of. Hruna and Forsburn say that there are 2 other people. Oh, I forgot to mention that. Affixed to the stones are skeletons of 4 bodies, and that are chained there by their wrists. So obviously these 4 skeletons are the spirits that they've been speaking to. The 2 spirits that they found that were lured here for this spell. So Fruna and Forsburn say that there's at least 2 other people. Maybe we can talk to these. We can find these other people. We can figure out some more information about this white lady. Figure out what this thing is. And it was at this point Raina decided just to run up to the crystal and smash it. Which I then described the following scene. As everyone kind of went silent for a moment as I described this. So they see, after being knocked back a little while, like the whole group is kind of knocked back a little bit onto there by like a bright light and a shockwave coming from this crystal. And they see form in the light the visage of the white lady, the like the elven enchantress that was spoken of in the story, and they see her there for a second. She's kind of looking at herself in her ghostly form, and she kind of just says, "I'm free. I'm finally free." But then there is like a crack in the ice beneath. There was like a red light coming out from the crevasse, and then a series of chains that fling out from within the ground and wrap around her various limbs. And she just screams as she's being dragged down into this red light, like, no, this was supposed to have worked. I'm supposed to be free. And she kind of gets slowly dragged down into hell as her spell is kind of undone, and she is found by the agents of hell. I also described to the party that their protective amulets from Priestess Galleria, right from the beginning of the game, the amulets which were protecting them from various bits and bobs happening. So Mutiny had one to kind of hide her from being found by Crowley's agents, and Stronus had one to kind of protect him from Voken's sight, and Raina had one to kind of protect her from the shadow beast that she has. Those all broke. The idea being that shattering this thing kind of, such raw ancient elven magic was able to break most elven enchantments based on other people. I also say to Forsburn that he's noticed like this gold glittery kind of magical effect kind of just weighing off of his shoulder, and to which Cole was like, "What the fuck? What have I got on me?" And we might talk about that another time as well. But yes, when I told both that Mutiny and Raina that their amulets had gone, they both were like, "Wait, the thing that's yes, it's the thing that's protecting you." And, oh shit, in that kind of moment. And then shortly after that, we see like 2 large red hands kind of just come out of the crevasse in the ground and start to pull out this beast out of the ground that's covered in chains and has like chains for armor and weapons. It is a chain devil. Chain devils in Aracséa are kind of like Hell's bounty hunters, Hell's like claimers of lost souls that are due to be in Hell but have escaped. They do fill a bit of the traditional torturer or jailer role as well, but their primary role is the recapturing of souls claimed. So this thing kind of reforms, having taken the Elven Witch's soul, and for a moment it kind of sniffs the air. It turns, having noticed something nearby that takes its interest, it looks straight at Mutiny and just says, like, it knows of a devil that would pay a pretty price for her soul. And then I immediately end the session there. It's a great cliffhanger, and I remember Mutiny's player Susie just turning to Dan, who plays Raina, just saying like, "Oh, you've kind of killed me now." And it's all bringing up this idea of, oh, we're getting to see a bit of Mutiny stuff. So that aside, that is all the kind of interesting stuff. There has been, Dan has repeatedly messaged me now wondering about his decision to make Raina destroy the crystal, which is obviously, you can see it as a character thing. It's probably what she would have done, but at the same time, he's now been worried that Raina is going to die next session, and it is a very big possibility, because little do they know, they're not just going to be fighting this chain devil thing. There's also going to be 4 like chain imps that kind of come with it as well. So it's not going to be an easy fight. They hardly have any resources. Granted, there are like 6 of them, with Hruna and Dagna involved. But yeah, he has been threatening this entire week about what is going to happen on our next session. And like worried about if he does make it through, if Mutiny dies, Reyna could never live with herself. It seems like this is finally the moment we've all been waiting for, where Reyna has going to realise that she needs to stop being Reyna. Basically, she needs to grow up. She needs to be more serious. She needs to stop doing these things and accepting the consequences, being more cautious, and all this kind of impulsive stuff. It's been a lot of back and forth between me and him, and Dan has said to me that he's been very anxious for next session because he's not sure what's going to happen, and it's clear to everyone, he's just going to have to up and run. Now, I do have a lot more surprises in store related to this, and while I'll just give you guys a little hint, while it may seem that this is going to be a mutiny focused thing, there's going to be a revelation from this that will change Reyna even more, and something that I've a plan that I'm going to put into next session that will change Reyna's direction. It's going to become a very Reyna focused thing, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. It's something I've not told you guys, a little secret about her that I've kept to myself, and like Dan has no notion of this as well. This is going to be a truly big surprise, and I'm very excited for this specific thing that will happen next session. That said, but beyond like mutiny revelations, was I expecting that kind of thing to her to do that? Yes, I was kind of thinking that would happen, but I didn't. Like I thought they'd be able to talk Reyna out of it, that Dan wouldn't be so reckless just to run and attack the thing. I likened it to in God of War when Atreus is like, let's blow this horn, and Kratos says without knowing why we're going to do it, like what it's going to do. It's kind of thing. She couldn't predict what was going to happen. Mutiny was telling her not to, that this is some sort of devil thing involved in this, and not to do it. And she did it anyway, as, like before, she's not listened to a group. It has caused bad things, and potentially people will die here. Maybe multiple, maybe just her. Who knows? But yes, what they were supposed to do is they were meant to visit these other locations, and they would find various bits, and they would find more of the Elven Witch's kind of work. They would find other bits and bobs. There might have been some magic items in it for them as well. They kind of explored around a little bit, spoken to the ghosts. And they would have also fought the Wraith creatures a little bit more as well, because the idea was that they would find out that to free... there is like something they could have done that would have done this a lot easier, with a lot less danger, let's say, and they could release. They would kill the Wraiths, and it would send them back to the stone. And there was a whole other thing they could have done, but that's pretty much just gone out the window by her jumping the gun. But at the same point, like I said earlier, without that jumping the gun, we probably wouldn't get the big revelation which will come in next session. And I can't wait to tell you guys about what it is. I can't wait to reveal to them. This is probably the most excited I've been for a session reveal, like this secret reveal, since ever, really. I have to admit. I reckon I don't think anything is going to top this for a while, apart from maybe getting to Act 2 and getting to that video. So I've probably missed some things which I've said we will talk about later, but that is pretty much what happened in that session. That's some of the background stuff as well. So yeah, I think we'll call it there. It's again a bit rambly today, but bringing you up to speed. I'm putting some big work into the next session, which is as of recording this, the next session is tomorrow night. So yeah, it's gonna be a big one. And just remember that little hint I gave you, that we're gonna twist this into being a very Reyna thing. And yeah, I'm super excited for it. So as always, thanks you guys for listening. This has been session 17 now, Wraiths, Witches and Worse. And we, as always, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time.